Hi, Christy. Welcome to the NTM Growth Marketing Podcast. I'm excited to be speaking with you today.
Hi, Andrew. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to speak with you also.
So something you mentioned before the call is that you took notice of my Ted Lasso believe quote right behind
Oh,
me.
yes.
I actually watched it after the whole series was done. Starting in June is when I started to, watch
Oh, wow.
all three seasons. Were you someone who watched from the onset, or did you pick it up halfway through?
I watched from the onset.
Okay.
I'm a big Jason Sudeikis fan and I'm from Kansas City. So I knew that the show had ties to Kansas City and I followed right from the beginning. It's one of my favorite shows.
So I would love to hear from you. What did you enjoy most about the marketing of Ted Lasso, of how it became a just cult phenomenon by the end of season
Oh,
three?
oh my gosh. I loved how I feel like it was born at a time where when they were making the show, there's no way they could have known, but it was a time when we needed that show
Mhm.
so much. I mean, it was so early on in the pandemic, and I remember it became, a water cooler Zoom topic at work of just it just kind of pulled everyone in and everyone was talking about it. And then it was fascinating to see the evolution of the show. I mean, they had it planned. They knew how they were going to end it. They knew where they were going with it. And the fact that they were able to match it to the times that we were living in, I just feel like the marketing of the show, it was so beautifully layered that it was a great show, and it was a mastery of marketing as well.
The million-dollar question is, will there be a spin-off, or do you think they'll continue on? As I read that as well, of how they truly had a three-season story arc and weren't
Yep.
necessarily expecting it to get this big.
Right. So I think it will go on. And I think they told us that at the end, that it was never about him. And
Mhm.
so I think it will go on without Ted, but I think the story continues. At least I hope. Maybe that's wishful thinking, but
Well, let's shift gears a little bit to why we're actually here today, and it's to learn more about you and your amazing marketing background and what you're currently up to.
mm,
And I want to just start off the dialogue and have you explain the current company that you're at and what is your role at the organization.
sure. So I work at a company called Numenta. It's a pretty unique company. We're basically an 18-year-old startup. I've been with the company for about 8 years, and originally it was founded with a scientific mission. So it was founded by Jeff Hawkins and Donna Dubinsky. It's the same team that did Palm Computing and Handspring. And Jeff has had a lifelong passion to figure out how the brain works, with the idea that the brain is the best example that we have of an intelligent machine. So if we can figure out how intelligence works in the brain, then we can apply that to AI and to create intelligent machines. And I love that mission. I was fascinated by it when I had the opportunity to come on board. I came on to run marketing 8 years ago, and when I joined, we were very much focused on neuroscience research, and we were building example applications on different algorithms that we were experimenting with. And we were focused on, putting the research into open source and licensing that. And then we kind of took a turn towards, okay, now we're going to double down on the neuroscience research because the team was making so much progress, and we turned into more of a really an academic neuroscience research lab. And so then I'm still running marketing, but now it's marketing a neuroscience company, which is not something I had any background in. And then we made enough progress on the neuroscience side that we turned towards, okay, now we really can start applying these principles to AI. And we're doing that today. And now we're commercializing and building products. So now I'm back to my product marketing roots. So it's gone through different evolutions, but it's been really exciting. And now I feel like we're at the point where this was the mission all along, to be able to learn enough about the brain that we could really understand it and then build intelligent machines based off of that. And it's exciting to see that come into reality.
I saw on LinkedIn before you joined this company, you had some large corporate experience. I believe was it Deloitte and IBM were two your
Yes.
uh and you
Yeah.
just had shared you're at an 18-year-old startup. Can you
Right.
talk a little bit about how marketing is different for very large organizations? I think at Deloitte you might have been more of a business analyst, I remember,
I was,
versus
yeah.
startup marketing. How does that differ?
Right. I think so. IBM, I spent most of half of my career at IBM, so I spent a significant amount of time there, and that marketing there is great. It was a great education for me for learning marketing. Of course, in a large company like that, there is so much process. There are so many people.
Mhm.
It's getting something done involves layers of decision makers and sign offs, and branding needs to review it and this and that. And working now at a company with around 20 people over the past 8 years, it's just things can move much quicker, right? So
Mhm.
so we're able to adapt more. We're able to kind of react to the market. We're able to, I did with the marketing team last year, we did a complete website redesign that was basically, there are two of us on the marketing team. And of course, we have to get internal buy-in on that. But at a large company, you can imagine how many different groups would
Right.
need to be involved on the design and the exact shade of blue and all of that.
Right.
And so it's nice to have the freedom to just move. And
Mhm.
especially in being in the AI field today, you don't have the time to
You can't
plan something
deliberate.
out for.
It's once you
No.
agree upon what's happening, it's already old news.
Right, it's already done. Yeah, there's already something new out, so you just have to be in constant motion. And so I think that's a
Mhm.
clear advantage of being at a startup.
I'd love to hear on the kind of reverse side. What are some of
Mhm.
the pros of marketing at a large behemoth organization that has tons of market share? What are some of the cons of marketing an early stage startup?
Sure. So I would say one of the pros working at a big company is just the amount of resources that you
Mhm.
can really pull off some incredible campaigns. I mean, I was lucky enough to get to work on the IBM Smarter Planet campaign that they started in 2008. I worked on the Watson campaign, the big Jeopardy tournament
Wow.
that at the time was, I mean, I played a very small role in it, but just to be a part of it, and doing something on that
And
scale,
that's a campaign people still talk about and reference. I
people
see it
still
at least
know.
once a week.
Yeah, at least once a week. Oh wow, that's good.
Maybe in my nerdy newsletters, just like to
Okay.
reference it.
Oh, that's fine. That's fine. Yeah, so that's something that's going to happen at a large organization.
Mhm.
And then you asked some of the cons of a working at a startup, right? I think one of the biggest cons is just trying to cut through the noise.
Mhm.
We're lucky enough at Numenta to, just because of the leadership we have and the founders that we have, that many people do know us and have followed us over the years. But at the same time, this is our first foray into building AI products. And so the pressure's on to really deliver, and we're delivering as a very small team, so that in itself is challenging.
What does your day-to-day look like at Numenta?
Oh gosh. My day to day is, this is going to sound like a cliched answer. It's never the same. I will say there's a pattern that has emerged since coming out of the pandemic. Or can we say that? Are we out of the pandemic?
I don't know when it started
I-
and ended. It's just kind of like one long day. Sometimes it
exactly.
feels
Yeah.
like.
I think maybe we're still in it in some way, but it's shifted. But we came back to the office in June of 2021, which was a little bit early, I think
That's
earlier
right when the
than.
vaccine got deployed, correct?
Exactly, exactly. And so we have been operating in a hybrid schedule since then. So on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, we're in the office, and the other 3 days, it's optional. And so that's kind of set up this nice pattern of, you try to do most of your meetings on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So
Mhm.
I know that if I need to collaborate with other people, if I need to be in front of a whiteboard, I'm going to save that for Tuesday or Wednesday. And then the other days are, kind of blocking out time to get work done. So in that sense, that's repetitive. But my day to day right now that we're into, building products, we're setting up for a product launch this fall. And so everything is really focused on that. The most exciting part of my job is that we've been running a beta program for this product since last December, and I've gotten to talk to so many customers, and it is the best education of what's happening in AI. And what ends up happening is, in talking to all these customers, we can see the patterns and the trends emerging before they're actually known, or before they're stated and recognized. And that's just, it's an education like no other, to be able to hear from customers. They talk through their pain points, and then you hear from multiple customers, and then I can synthesize that and bring that to the next customer conversation. And that is something that is new in my role here, because we were so focused on neuroscience before. So having those touch points with the customers, that's the best part of the day, is when they can be filled with those customer meetings.
I want to talk a little bit about product launches. So when I think of product launches, there's a few things coming to my mind. I think of the Steve Jobs releasing the new innovation from Apple. I think as a little kid, like my new favorite video game is released, and like we have to go with my parents the day up to get it before all the other kids do, and it's sold out.
Yes.
I want to hear from you, what are some of the secret ingredients behind the scenes of a product launch, and how do you create that feeling of scarcity and urgency? Like I felt as a kid with this new video game, like Madden 98 is out, like I have to go today, mom, and get it.
Right. Well, I think it starts internally, actually, and it's worth noting. So at Numenta, I mentioned we've been in these different structures before. Of, if you had visited our office kind of pre-pandemic, it would have looked very much like a research lab. And so it has to start with internally making sure that everybody internally feels that sense of urgency, and that this is our moment. We're coming out, we're building products, we've kind of shifted. It's a different pace for sure. And that starts from the inside. But then in terms of, it's funny that you asked about just the components that go into a launch, because as we were planning this, I was thinking, like, I don't even know our events. We want to do it at an event. We want to be up on a stage. We want to make an announcement, kind of the traditional product announcements. I'm thinking, are those still things? Are we coming back to events? And I think we are. And so we're, planning some of those things. But one nice thing that came out of, being forced to work remotely for as long as we did, is that it opened up new avenues to, oh, okay, yeah, we can be doing LinkedIn webinars, and we can be doing, we had a meetup group that used to meet at our office. And of course, during the pandemic, we turned that into, well, we'll just do it on Zoom. And now when we had 25 people come to listen to our talk in the office, now we've got, 1,000 members. And so planning the launch is both planning the actual event, but all of the activities that lead up to it, and then of course that, continue on after it. I mean, the product launch itself is kind of, one moment in time. That's the big build up to the day that we're kind of trying to build momentum towards. But then once it's launched, then that's when things hopefully really, pick up.
What advice do you have of some things that work and don't work during product launches, so you do hit your goals that you set out with?
Some things that work, you mean internally or externally, or both?
Both.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I've really been focused on, particularly with this launch, is ownership. I think at a small company, and I think so. Let me finish that thought. At a small company, you have the chance to see the impact that your work makes. And I know I've worked in situations or companies before where there's a divide between marketing and engineering, and it just happens, right? That you're working on different things, and somewhere maybe above you it connects, but you don't really interact. And so I think it's the job of, especially in product marketing, to make sure that every engineer understands, this feature that you're working on, this is what it allows us to do, and these are the stories that it allows us to tell, and this is why this customer wants the product, rather than, okay, did you complete your Jira or your task, or that they often don't get to see what it builds up to. So I've really been trying to communicate to the whole team a feeling of ownership. And then that's matched with, it's on me to make sure that I'm communicating and being transparent about, this is what happens based on the work that you've done. I think that's been really helpful. I think in terms of you asked for do's and don'ts, the don't that I think is a constant thing that maybe everybody works on, I know I work on it, is that things don't have to be perfect, right? Especially in the landscape that we are right now, with how quickly everything's moving. I mean, I want my work to be good. If I'm writing a blog, I want it to be great, but I can't spend weeks on a blog because I just want to get there. Like, okay, I'm making the point, I'm going to get it out, right? And I think that's across the board with product too, right? There can always be updates and upgrades and new features added, but like, you've got to move and you've got to get stuff out. And that's I think the big don't, I guess, is don't get hung up on getting that last 1%. Just get it done and keep moving.
You mentioned about the communication you have with your engineers, and what I heard as well is really filling them in on the whole process and the goals, and so they see their work as very tangible. What advice do you have of as marketers, making sure your communication cross-departmental is good and everyone's moving towards the same goal together?
Yeah, I think that's it's a little bit easier to do it at a small company, but I think part of it is understanding how people like to communicate, how and where, right? So with the engineering team, for example, email might not be the thing, right? Like,
Right,
email
probably
is just not
or
Slack.
something.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. And so we might craft up this great, like, here's everything you need to know about the key messaging points and what to say and what not to say. And if it's in an email, that's a story that never gets read. I'm overstating, but
I have
if
similar
it's a bullet,
experiences, so I know what you're
really,
referring to. Right.
yeah, and just a few bullet points on Slack, I think that's like, okay, got it. I think the second thing also is just simplifying where possible. I think that's another thing that I can, I'm prone to just wordiness, and thinking like, oh, well, the more I explain, then the better they'll understand. And sometimes it's the complete opposite. It's like, no, just synthesize the key points. You don't need 10, you need 3. What do they need to know if they're going to be staffing this booth at the event?
How did you become a good communicator?
Oh gosh. I so I did not think I was going to end up in marketing. I'm at heart a math nerd. I started as a math major in college. I just was all about numbers. The summer after I graduated from high school, we moved, and so I didn't have a lot of friends yet. And so I spent my time studying for the actuarial exams because I thought that my dad was an actuary, and I thought, oh, that might be fun. So I am a math nerd, but I saw, even in college, math is one of those subjects that if you don't love it, you hate it and you don't
Right.
understand it, and it's foreign, right? And so I actually thought, what I want to do when I grow up is I want to write a math book. I want to make math fun. And maybe if I can like put a good story around it, then everybody will see the beauty. Like, I'll have a whole section on the Fibonacci sequence, and how can people, not be excited by that? And so think, unbeknownst to me at the time, because I really was deeply, deeply into math, I think that notion of being able to to explain really complicated things and make that accessible to people, that seed was planted through my love of math, and that has turned into now almost 25-year marketing career. So I ended up here accidentally. My major I went from math major to then economics because I thought, well, that'll be more practical, but it's still analytical. And now here I am in marketing and communications. But yeah.
What do you think makes a good marketer?
I think you have to be curious. I think curious about whatever it is that you're marketing. I also think you have to be adaptable. I think in particular, just seeing, in my own career over the years, I mean, when I started, Google was just coming on the scene. I mean, it was all about LexisNexis. And, I remember at IBM when social media was becoming a thing too. And you had a social media team that was separate from the marketing team. And now you see it with ChatGPT too. I'm a big proponent of ChatGPT. I think it's a huge productivity booster. It's helped me. It's helped me just ask better questions. I never thought prompting would be a skill I'd be proud of, but so I think that additional tools and things will come on the scene that you've got to be able to make them work for you, as opposed to being wed to, oh no, this is the way things are done. So I think you have to be flexible, you have to be curious. And I think it helps to enjoy storytelling, because that's at the heart of marketing.
I'd love to hear your thoughts on some non-shiny marketing channels that you think are on the rise in 2023. So for some more context, I love ChatGPT. I just updated to ChatGPT 4. I love the addition. The answers are so much better I'm getting.
Yes.
But are you seeing something not as glamorous as ChatGPT? For instance, like handwritten thank you cards, simply like a handshake and getting coffee with someone. Like these are actually, there might be an arbitrage in some of these non-sexy ways to spread your marketing.
So what I think that is the non-shiny thing right now is meeting in person, whether it's at a coffee shop, or I think maybe because we couldn't do it for a while, but we're located in the Bay Area. And so a lot of the events or a lot of the companies we're talking to are also local, and being able to say, we'll be trying to schedule the next meeting with a customer, and then we'll realize like, wait, you're in the city, we're in the peninsula, like, why don't we just get together and talk about this? And it makes such a difference. And so I don't think anything will ever replace an old fashioned, like being able to truly look someone in the eye, as opposed to, look at a
trying to
screen
figure
or
out
a camera.
beforehand how to make eye contact on Zoom.
Exactly. Right? Yeah. Do I look at the camera? Do I look at you? So I think I don't know if that's non-shiny, but I think that will never go away. Just being able to have that in-person interaction.
How is the San Francisco tech ecosystem? I'm in San Diego. I didn't share that before we started. And so I just hear, Twitter headlines or rumors of kind of and I hear it in all directions. I hear like the worst of the worst to like AI is reinventing the ecosystem in San Francisco. What's your pulse living there of how things are going?
Yeah. So first I would ask, don't take Twitter as a proxy for how things are going in the Bay Area. Like there are some really interesting headlines of that crack us up over that. But I would say I feel like, so I've been in the Bay Area for almost 10 years now, and kind of lived all over the country before that. So, but I've just never seen a time like this. Specifically with AI. I mean, AI has been around for a long time, for decades, but this notion of I feel like maybe it's been this a little more nebulous. And when ChatGPT came on the scene last November, all of a sudden it was like all eyes were on it, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do with it. And there's this urgency, and the pace is increased. And so I definitely feel that in the Bay. And there is this sense of okay, there's still a lot of confusion. There's still a lot of noise. There are still any number of, announcements of new companies that are being funded that come on the scene, that are coming out of stealth. But I think the sense is, that eventually people are going to figure this out, and it's going to settle down. And so this moment just feels very like it's an exciting, the pulse is exciting, and I feel like that's tangible here.
How do you personally stay on top of all the AI trends that are emerging?
A lot of it is through, so some of it is through Slack. So we have, the kind of interesting papers channel, or, interesting articles that we see. And so we'll share them with each other as a company. And then a lot of it is just through talking to customers and seeing what they're facing and what they're trying to do, what they're dealing with. And then you start to see these patterns emerging, and yeah, it's really a combination of trying to stay up on it on my own, and then trying to be in as many of those conversations as possible, so I hear it firsthand from the people who are actually trying to deploy this stuff.
Can you elaborate on why it's so important to speak to your customers?
Oh yeah, I think, well, it's not only important to speak to them, but to listen to them as well. Um, I think that's where the learning happens on both ends. Especially now, I think uh, the trend that I'm seeing right now is that we're talking to a lot of people who have received this, direction that, hey, go figure out our LLM strategy, or we need to be using generative AI. Go figure out how to do that. And a lot of times in the conversation, the first thing we talk about is there may not even be an understanding of what the difference between generative and non-generative AI is. And so being able to start with the conversation of, let's step back, let's set the scene, let's talk about generative is, it's creating new human-like original text, and non-generative is analyzing existing text. And by the way, a lot of what companies want to do today can be done with non-generative. And so having those conversations, that's just it helps the customer understand how to tackle things, and it also helps us see where the sticking points are, right? So I think it's crucial. It's crucial to communicate, and also to hear from them what's important. I'll tell you, when we started the beta program and we had our bullets of, these are the benefits of Numenta and the Numenta solution, those bullets today are not the same, because some of the things that we had, like, oh, maybe, this was down on the bottom, we started hearing that more and more people would hone in on that last bullet and say, oh yeah, that's a huge issue. And so we talked to enough people and realized, oh, that's a big deal. And we didn't realize that was as big of a deal. And so now that's elevated in our messaging. And those are the kinds of things that you have to be listening for, and not just, let me give you our pitch and tell you, these are the 5 things you need to know about us. So yeah, I think talking to and listening to customers is essential.
I have a few more questions before we wrap
Okay.
up. And the first one is, what is a marketing campaign you've had in your career that you're really proud of, and why?
Oh, so I think this was actually at IBM. This was back in 2008 or so. So I was doing product marketing for one of their databases, and we decided we got enough money in the budget that we were going to put together this big video, and we hired like an award-winning director to come direct it. We actually paid actors to do it. We hired comedy writers that we were saying, IBM was kind of known for being a little bit old and stodgy. And we thought, no, we're going to make a really funny video, and we're going to do it in the mockumentary style that was really popular at the time, The Office and Parks and Rec. And we're going to make fun of ourselves. And the whole thing is going to be IBM's trying to make a viral video. And it was great. It was it helped drive traffic to the database. It was unexpected. It got, a lot of views. I think it was fun for the brand. I think that was a success. I'll tell you, on the heels of that came a failure, because when it came time to do the next campaign for a different database server, we said, oh, okay, we'll do another video, because that went really well, right? We tried to be cute and clever, and it flopped. It just totally flopped, because in the first one, we were almost winking at the audience, right? Or the customer base,
Right.
essentially the audience, saying like, look at us making fun of ourselves for making a video about making a viral video. And in the second one, it was like, wait, so you guys are trying to be that company now? Are you making fun of yourself, or is that what you're doing? And that was a good lesson, because the lesson to me there was, don't just rinse and repeat, right? Because I mean, if you find if something that's working, of course you can do that again. But I think, just because it had worked the first time didn't mean, oh, we can do the same thing and then be the funny
Right.
video company. That was not our brand. And that's why the first one worked.
Was it similar to the Welcome to Scranton video that Michael Scott created? Is that kind of the vibe that it was?
Yeah. In fact, we actually hired the guy who played the boss, did it in the style of Michael Scott. And every so often I will see him in a movie, like a well-known movie. And yeah, I'm always like, oh, that's the guy from the IBM video. I'm sure that's his claim to fame too, but
Well, just two last questions. The first one
sure.
is, I'm curious to hear, you talked a little bit earlier around stuff coming back in real life, the importance of that. Are there any marketing or business conferences that you would recommend our listeners take a look at?
Oh, marketing conferences
Or business conferences?
or
And if
business
not, is
conferences?
there a memorable one you've gone to in the past? And if it still exists, I'm sure we can Google search it to see if it's still around.
Well, one of my favorites, which I know is still around, is Code.
Mhm.
Or is it Code or Recode?
I've actually not heard of that.
Oh, okay. That's the Kara Swisher one. I think it used to be Kara Swisher and Walt Mossberg, and then Walt retired, and now it's Kara Swisher. That one I haven't gone to in a few years, but that one is always those. It's the one where Kara will interview. I think she's interviewed Mark Zuckerberg in the past, and
Very awesome.
she's pretty tough on on the people that she interviews, and so those talks tend to get a lot of a lot of promotion, but it was really just exciting to be there in the audience. That's probably the biggest one. I'm trying to get out to more conferences now that they're becoming
Right.
more regular again.
So the last question today is, what is the best purchase you've made for under $100, either personally or professionally, in the last 6 months?
So this is a personal purchase, and actually I think it's under $25. It was a set of Crayola markers, the 40 pack, which has all the colors. So I have a young daughter at home, and she has no shortage of toys from grandparents and relatives and everything, but one of her favorite things to do is draw. And so we do it every morning before she goes to daycare, before I go to work. We're always drawing, and I am a horrible art. I mean, I stick figures are my thing, but during the pandemic, we did a lot of drawing, and we found this channel called Draw So Cute, which just teaches you how to draw. And now there are moments where even this weekend, she asked if we could do a video and Draw So Cute, and she started, I think it was Barbie that was the new upload. So we were drawing Barbie, and she lost interest, halfway through. And, my husband comes up the stairs and looks, I'm like, I'm almost done. I'm almost done. It's and so now it's like my outlets.
Your stress
Somehow
reliever?
I've got exactly, yeah. So yeah, it's that pack of markers, man. It's
Amazing.
yeah.
So lastly, can you share websites, social media handles, ways we can learn more about you and your organization?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you can find Numenta at numenta.com. And on the homepage, we have links to all of our, social media pages as well. And then I can be found on pretty much all the things as CD Maver, on LinkedIn as Christy Maver.
Perfect, Christy. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you.